If you spend some time reading up on Square and Stripe, you can't help but notice how similar they are. They're both giants in the payments industry that have transformed the way people pay for things, as well as the way business owners accept payments. In today's video, I'm putting Square and Stripe head to head to find out who the winner is. So in today's video, we'll compare Stripe and Square by looking at several factors like features, pricing, ease of use, customer service, user reviews, and integrations. Then I'll wrap it up with my final verdict. Both Square and Stripe offer a huge assortment of commerce tools that make it easy for merchants to run their businesses. With the various APIs and integrations available, plus support for in-person, online, and even in-app payments, there are almost limitless possibilities for creating a custom system with everything from invoicing to email marketing and more. But once you get past that point, it becomes harder to draw apples to apples comparisons because Square's offerings are much more varied. Square is an all-in-one payment processor that can handle in-person and e-commerce payments, as well as inventory management, CRM, and much more. Stripe, on the other hand, has generally focused more on mobile and e-commerce with powerful tools for marketplaces and subscription-based businesses, and it's a relative newcomer to POS transactions. So to keep things fair and within a manageable scope, we're going to primarily consider each company's online and mobile commerce tools and point of sale options and touch briefly on the additional services each one provides. If you want to know more about those additional services, check out their respective in-depth reviews that I've linked below. So let's get started by comparing Square and Stripe's features, beginning with the most important feature, payment processing. The main reason you'd use either of these services is, of course, to process non-cash payments. Both Stripe and Square are third-party processors, meaning that they aggregate all of their customers into a single merchant account. That makes it easier to get approved quickly, but at the cost, potentially, of account instability down the road. It also makes them a bad fit for high-risk businesses. Square, for the most part, focuses on letting merchants accept card payments. You won't get ACH support, but if you sell online, you can add support for online and mobile wallets. Stripe's payment processing goes beyond credit cards. In addition to ACH, Stripe allows merchants to accept a host of different currencies, over 135 currencies to be exact. Plus, for online payments, you can add Apple Pay on the web and other mobile wallets. Another feature set we want to look into is e-commerce integrations. Businesses that aren't looking to do a lot of coding in-house will want to look for strong shopping cart integrations for e-commerce. In keeping with its user-friendly reputation, Square makes it easy for businesses to engage in e-commerce. Square has acquired Weebly for an easy, affordable e-commerce option. Plus, Square's list of integrations already includes some of the best shopping cart options, and the list keeps growing. Square is an omni-channel solution for merchants who want to sell anywhere without needing to build a complicated system of integrations or do a lot of coding work. The advantage of choosing Square is that you can get set up quickly with access to all of Square's free tools and software, and it's ready to go after you import your products and adjust your settings a little bit. New to Square is Square Online Checkout, which is designed to match some of PayPal's e-commerce flexibility. Square Online Checkout allows you to generate a link button that you can embed in your website, emails, text, or social media posts. The link allows your buyer to buy your product, make a donation, or otherwise transfer money to you. It's currently only available in the United States though, so keep that in mind. Where Square goes for ease of use, Stripe dominates in the sheer number of integrations. In addition to integrations with major e-commerce software providers, developers have created an assortment of plugins for businesses operating on WordPress, Magento, and other websites. If you're not sure where to start, you might end up needing to do a lot of research to decide the best course of action, but you can at least take heart in knowing that there will be something that will meet your needs. Stripe also has far more robust options for businesses that need to take recurring payments, particularly ACH payments. While Square does offer advanced reporting, it's still nothing compared to the power of Stripe's Sigma, an SQL-based custom reporting tool. So let's see what kind of developer tools each provider offers. As full-stack payment services, both Square and Stripe offer extremely robust APIs for any developers on your staff. It's not so much a matter of which service is better for developers, but which ecosystem better suits your business. Square's dev tools make it possible for you to create almost any custom integration you need. For e-commerce, there are two APIs, Checkout and transactions. Square Checkout is a pre-made form that can be dropped into a site with minimal fuss. Using Checkout means merchants are eligible for some perks, such as next day deposits and chargeback protection. The Transaction API, on the other hand, combined with Square's payment form, is more customizable. Square also supports app-based payments and supports iOS, Android, and Flutter SDKs. Stripe is much loved by developers for its flexibility, its extensive documentation, and its support for multiple programming languages, both on the web and in mobile apps. Stripe Elements will let you create an entirely custom form with pre-built components, while Stripe Checkout generates a pre-built form you can just drop into the site with a few lines of JavaScript. In addition to mobile, web, and in-app payments, Stripe offers a host of APIs for other functions. All right, let's talk about point-of-sale terminals. If you've swiped a card at a small business, there's a pretty good chance that you've used a Square interface at some point. If you're looking for full-service point-of-sale options, it's hard to beat Square. Square POS is one of the most powerful free mobile apps out there, and it does very well as a countertop iPad POS too. Check out our complete review of Square POS linked below for an in-depth look at the app as well as compatible hardware. Square offers merchants a free magstripe reader, but prices go up from there to accept EMV cards and contactless payments. Plus, Square's POS and reader APIs allow you to use Square's hardware and checkout flow in custom-built apps if you need something more customizable. In comparison, it's very clear that Stripe isn't looking to fiercely compete in the point-of-sale ring. Stripe does, however, support POS payments through Stripe Terminal. This isn't a full suite of hardware and custom apps, but rather developer tools you can use to integrate Stripe into compatible POS apps. It's not a bad option if you're already in Stripe's ecosystem. Moving on to business capital. Yes, capital as in loans. Payment processing services such as Square, Stripe, and PayPal have begun offering their customers financing. It's not as strange as it sounds. Payment processors have a pretty good idea of what your revenue looks like, as well as the infrastructure to collect payments on any debt they issue. Stripe Capital and Square Capital are remarkably similar. Rather than apply for a loan, both companies will automatically extend an offer to qualifying customers through their own dashboards. While both companies call their products loans, they actually function a bit more like merchant cash advances. That is to say, they're repaid by your payment processor taking a percentage of your credit card sales until you've repaid the amount you were extended, plus a flat fee, of course. I wouldn't recommend choosing either service based on their capital program though. The best one is the one offered by the payment processor that better suits your overall payment services needs, not necessarily your financial needs. That said, there are a few notable differences between Square and Stripe Capital. The first is that Stripe Capital is faster, promising next day delivery on funds. Square Capital takes 2 to 6 days to get your money. On the other hand, Square provides more upfront details about its service than Stripe does. For example, Square Capital loan amounts range from $500 to $250,000, and the company wants to see a minimum annual revenue of $10K in Square sales in order to qualify. Stripe doesn't divulge either. Neither company lists a range of fees, but both use 10% as an example. As for additional features, both Stripe and Square offer a variety of other services that may or may not be relevant to your company. In broad strokes, Stripe services tend to be more focused on billing, payment transfers, fraud protection, and advanced reporting. Meanwhile, Square's are more focused on customer management and retention, multi-location management, and employee management. It's harder to make apples-to-apples comparisons with most of these services as only some overlap. To see more of both Stripe and Square's service offerings, visit our detailed reviews linked below. Alright, let's take a look at pricing. I'm happy to say that pricing for both Square and Stripe is mostly straightforward. There are no monthly fees, no monthly minimums, no statement fees, and no cancellation fees, which is very nice to see. You might run into a few situations that aren't simply explained, but here's what you can generally expect for pricing. Square's transaction fees are 2.9% plus 30 cents per transaction for online card transactions or invoice, 2.6% plus 10 cents per swipe, dipped, or tapped transaction, and 3.5% plus 15 cents per keyed entry. Square also has no chargeback fees, which is very unusual. Not only that, but the company has rolled out chargeback protection, which will cover the actual chargeback costs on qualifying disputes up to $250 per month. This doesn't apply to merchants who use the Transactions API, but it is available to those who use Square Checkout. You can give volume discounts if you process above $250,000 a year and have an average ticket size exceeding $15. That's a mark in Square's favor for large businesses. While Square's premium point-of-sale apps and its marketing tools will rack up additional fees, the vast majority of the tools Square provides cost nothing at all beyond the payment processing costs. Check out our article, How Much Does Square Charge?, linked below for an in-depth look at pricing. Now for Stripe's transaction fees. You can look to pay 2.9% plus 30 cents per online transaction or invoice, 2.7% plus 5 cents for swiped, dipped, or tapped transactions using Stripe Terminal, 0.8% per ACH transaction, capped at a $5 maximum. For each chargeback, Stripe will assess a $15 fee unless the chargeback is decided in your favor. In that case, you'll pay absolutely nothing. Also, I'd like to point out that Stripe supports ACH transactions, something that Square does not. If you'd like to be able to offer the option to pay with bank accounts, you'll need to use Stripe or another processor that supports ACH. Stripe has moved away from its all tools included for the price of payment processing model and begun charging modest fees for some of its additional add-on services. For example, Stripe's subscription tools, lumped under the name Stripe Billing, along with invoicing, will cost you a small percentage fee between 0.5% and 0.8% on top of your transaction. Stripe does offer enterprise pricing for very large businesses, and some nonprofits may be eligible for a special rate. Stripe doesn't make any promises about nonprofit pricing apart from, let us know and we'll see what we can do. So you shouldn't assume it's guaranteed. With Stripe, you may also be able to negotiate for microtransaction rates as well, whereas per transaction fees such as the 30 cents Stripe and Square charge can eat up profits from small transactions, less than $10 in particular. Microtransaction rates typically include a higher percentage and a lower per transaction fee that can save merchants money. This is ideal for anyone who sells digital goods and other low-cost items. Because it's something offered as part of a custom package, Stripe may not offer this deal to everyone. If you're unable to get a microtransaction plan from Stripe, it might be worth looking at a third option, PayPal, instead. All in all, Stripe and Square are fairly evenly matched in pricing. Some merchants might enjoy the lack of chargeback fees and included chargeback protection that Square offers, but Stripe might be a better draw for other companies despite the cost for using some of its additional services such as Stripe Billing. Okay, time to see which provider is easier to use. Square has built its empire on the idea of simplicity. All of its software works perfectly together with centralized reporting, while the premium iPad point-of-sale system, Square for Retail and Square for Restaurants, offer interfaces designed specifically for their respective niches. Square POS, the free mobile point-of-sale app, is very intuitive and easy to use. Square's e-commerce options are likewise easy to use. You just need to connect Square to your online store to enable payments. Just keep in mind that the complexity of your e-commerce store depends on which shopping cart you use. Control of your payment information from the POS app, your online store, invoices, and any other channel is all centralized under the Square dashboard. Stripe is more complex. That's the nature of the beast. With so many features and a developer-first focus, Stripe is not going to be as simple as Square, especially for users who aren't exactly tech-savvy. Though there are ways around having to type any code, these plug-and-play integrations aren't the service's strength. Once you get Stripe up and running, it's perfectly user-friendly though, but it's really hard to beat Square in that arena. Okay, what about customer support? Square offers merchants phone and email support, as well as an extensive knowledge base. That's pretty typical of any processor, but on top of that, Square operates the Seller Community, a community forum about all things Square. You can get answers from other Square merchants, as well as from pretty much any Square support rep. It's a pretty powerful tool, and on top of that, Square's team monitors the website Stack Overflow for questions about Square products and responds to them. I can't say that Square's customer support is all sunshine and rainbows though, because I do see customer complaints about the quality. Without a doubt, the biggest complaint about the quality of customer support comes from merchants whose accounts have been terminated. In that case, Square cuts off access to phone support and will only communicate via email. For a long time, Stripe lagged behind other providers in terms of customer service. That has now changed, and it definitely makes Stripe a more competitive solution in my eyes. Stripe also maintains a self-service knowledge base, though I don't think it's as extensive or detailed as Square's is, but I will say that Stripe's documentation is pretty legendary, and so it's going to be one of the best resources you can get. You can also find questions about Stripe on Stack Overflow, but I'm not able to ascertain whether Stripe's team is active on the forum the way Square is. And of course, Stripe has long had a free node IRC channel. Happily, after years of complaints about merchants not being able to talk to a real person in real time, Stripe decided in April of 2018 to adopt 24/7 customer support for all of its merchants. That kind of change in operations is a massive investment, and I don't see it done often. It hasn't eliminated the issues that come up with third-party processing territory though, like account holds and freezes, but it does improve the customer experience overall. Also, for larger businesses, Stripe now offers premium support packages starting at $1,000 a month. Moving on to user reviews, as far as complaints go, the single biggest issue for both Square and Stripe is a common one, and that is account holds and terminations, which is unsurprising because it's a common issue with any third-party processor. Because these payment systems are usually open to almost anyone right away, and they are all lumped into one large merchant account, there's a greater risk that some of those accounts will be terminated for risky behavior. There's very little scrutiny done ahead of time when your account with one of these processors is approved, which stands in contrast to regular merchant accounts where the processing company will do a lot of underwriting and investigating before approving your application. Both Square and Stripe use a lot of machine learning to analyze transactions and flag suspicious behaviors, and the potential for account holds or terminations is universal. You'll encounter it with any third-party processor. If you want to avoid it though, your only alternative is to seek out a traditional merchant account. The other complaint that I see with both is also a pretty common one: poor customer support. If I'm honest, reports about the quality of customer service do conflict though. But because of how common the complaints are, I'm listing it here. With Stripe, the most common issues are the lack of live support, which in theory should no longer be a problem because of the investment they made in live support, and slow response times for email. With Square, a lot of the complaints are about poor customer service coming from terminated merchant accounts, but I've seen a few complaints about slow or unhelpful email responses as well. Additional frequent complaints about Stripe include lack of fraud protection. I do want to be clear though, Stripe does have fraud management tools and a system to help merchants fight chargebacks, but I have seen complaints from merchants who don't think these are adequate enough. Chargebacks are not settled by Stripe, so there's not much the company can do beyond pass the requested documents on. But for fraud prevention, merchants need to make sure they have the appropriate tools enabled. I've also read that Stripe is not user-friendly. There's a lot of testimonials from users, especially developers, who like Stripe and find it simple to set up, but there are plenty of others who disagree with that idea. I'm inclined to think that people with a decent technical backing will get along fine with Stripe, but for some people, especially those with less technical knowledge, it's not going to be a good choice. For Square, there are two other common complaints. One, lack of advanced features. It's not that Square doesn't have enough features or that it's missing anything important. The complaints about Square often focus on the lack of very particular advanced features that you typically find in full-scale point-of-sale systems. In this case, I think Square's lack of extensive subscription tools would fit the bill. As another example, some merchants have been upset for quite a while over the lack of cost of goods reporting. Square added this feature with its Square for Retail app, but not for online sales or its free point of sale. Square has some robust reporting tools, but in the end, they won't hold a candle to Stripe's Sigma offering. Another common complaint for Square is the new POS pricing model. For a long time, Square was a great deal for small businesses that conducted a lot of small in-person transactions. The 2.75% flat pricing meant that the cost of your transactions always scaled with your sale. That's gone now, with Square using a more typical percent plus model, 2.6% plus 10 cents a transaction. While there's nothing sinister about this, it has affected a lot of Square's customers. Alright, that covers it for user reviews. Let's move on to integrations. Neither Square nor Stripe lacks in the integration department. In fact, you'll probably need to use search tools to dig through the overwhelming number that they have. Overall, Square probably has an edge in terms of big name integrations, where Stripe is more of a platform that you modify yourself with some technical knowledge. Square centralizes its integrations in the Square app marketplace, which is good because there are a lot of them. They include accounting tools, e-commerce, invoicing, POS systems, inventory, recurring billing, and a lot more. Lately, Square has added more integrations tailored to specific industries, such as healthcare management. As I touched on earlier, you can also develop your apps for Square using one of its APIs. Stripe similarly consolidates its official integrations on its partners page, where you can find first-party extensions, e-commerce platforms, accounting synchronization, POS software, customer management extensions, and more. And you can also join Stripe's partner program as a developer or commission one to build you a custom app. Okay, so what's the final verdict? Both Stripe and Square have some very important core similarities. They both have an assortment of tools that allow merchants to sell online. Neither one is suited for high-risk industries, and there's a lengthy list of businesses neither company can work with. But despite that, both Stripe and Square offer tools that cater to a huge assortment of industries. They'll both grow with your business, making it easy to scale up. And despite their similarities in terms of business model, it's also pretty clear that what each company does best is completely different. Square is a spectacular all-in-one processor with a ready-made solution. You can sell in a store, on the go, and online, and get all of your information and payments and orders collected in one simple, intuitive dashboard. There's a vast array of add-on products that allow you to consolidate a host of business functions under one name, and they're guaranteed to work together perfectly. If you have limited technical knowledge, Square is going to be much easier to get started with and to navigate through the different features. Stripe focuses on internet payments, both on the web and in-app, but its tools make it possible for businesses to cater to customers all over the globe. The international appeal, from the local currency displays to the sheer breadth of payment methods accepted, makes it clear that Stripe is already a global player. Not only that, but with Stripe's APIs and documentation, a savvy developer could create all kinds of payment customizations for a business. Business owners who don't have a developer on staff and who don't have a lot of technical knowledge themselves may initially struggle with understanding how to use Stripe, especially if they want to do more than integrate it with some sort of shopping cart software. So my recommendation is to sit down and think about what features are your must-haves, and then look at which ones you'd like to have but aren't necessarily required. From there, it should be pretty clear which solution is right for you. Alright, time to wrap it up. If you like this comparison, please hit that like button down below. If you've had any experience with either Square or Stripe, please let us know in the comments section. And of course, if you have any general questions, make sure to leave a comment as well. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And as always, thank you for watching.